is overtime here again at Old Favorite Friday, talking about incredible classic beers. And this Lost Coast IPA is a beer that I've been seeing on the shelves. I mean, I've known about this beer for a long time. I've been drinking it for almost, I think, 20 years now. But I've seen this on the shelves a lot recently and just kind of assumed this must be a beer I've done for Old Favorite Friday, because I remember back in the day, this was one of the few IPAs, one of the few craft beers that was available down here. And Lost Coast is an important brewery, at least in this neck of the woods. You know, things like Great White, their white ale, their wheat beer was a staple at one of my favorite beer joints years and years ago. Coffee District was always on draft. So Lost Coast is a significant part of my history in the beer industry, and yet I had never talked about this beer before. So I'm rectifying that now. This is a classic West Coast-style IPA, and I think I'm almost like a broken record at this point, talking about how like the haze craze has kind of like diminished the flavor profiles of a West Coast IPA, but the thing is they're coming back. People are starting to realize the balance and the extra bitterness and the flavor profiles of maybe a little bit more of a pine resin to go along with the fruity aspects of like grapefruit and orange zest are really, really nice. And I'm happy to see that happening, because it's a style that when it's done well is just perfect. And I think Lost Coast IPA has kind of stayed the course the entire time. I'm getting that resinous flavor profile to it. I'm getting a nice bitterness, but I'm also getting maltiness. That's another thing that's kind of missing in today's IPAs, is that you have all this fruit flavor without like a malt backbone. There is that bready malt flavor here that's really, really nice. This is, you know, kind of tinging almost into like a orangey kind of character as far as the color goes, showing you that kind of deeper malt flavor and complexity than like that super straw yellow or super yellow beers. But yeah, this beer's been around for a long time. Lost Coast has been around since 1990. I believe this was one of the first beers introduced from Lost Coast. So you kind of can't go wrong. If you want to try a beer from Lost Coast and kind of understand where the brewery comes from, this is a great place to start. And if you're looking for a classic West Coast IPA, this is another good place to start with that. If you want to be introduced to the style, if you're a big haze person who's trying to understand why the industry is starting to rediscover this style, this is a good place to go to. I just really love this beer. I really like the entire concept of the classic West Coast. So good for Lost Coast for being able to do this for so long. And talking about food pairings for this, I was thinking there's a lot of ways you can go with an IPA. IPAs, a lot of times you're talking about fried food, spicy foods. Because of the body and kind of the hop complexity of this, I was thinking like shrimp or fish tacos would go well with it, but I'm thinking specifically with like a nice like cilantro garlic crema, like something that's gonna kind of play into the herbaceousness of the hop profile there and accentuate that in a lot of ways. Also adding a little bit of lime in that would accentuate the citrus in the beer, which is kind of subdued, but it's definitely there, more of a grapefruit or an orange zest than I would say like a lime or a lemon. But that would round that out really, really nice. And then you have the bitterness to clean the palate of something that can be a little bit fatty, a little bit rich. I believe it would go really well together. Maybe one of you guys will try it out and tell me if I'm right or wrong. Guys, thank you very much for joining us as always. Please poke around the channel, find other videos about incredible classic beers. If you love beers like me, not just the flavor of the week, not just the beer that just came out that you've been so excited for, but the beers that have stayed the course for a long time, producing incredible classic flavors for decades sometimes. We really appreciate a follow. Thank you guys very much. We'll see you next time. Cheers.